Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How you doing today, Will?
I'm doing fantastic, Cam. How about you?
I'm doing great. Obviously, I'm not in the typical location that I'm in. I'm in a cabin of sorts, a log cabin of sorts. So I'll be here for the entirety of this episode. So sorry for the weird camera. I have to use the good old laptop camera today. Um, I'm currently sitting in a super ridiculous chair that was definitely not meant for podcasting. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of a rough around the edges podcast video wise, but audio we've never been better, and that's what a podcast is. It's audio. We're here for you to listen, and because we're a great podcast. We, in addition to having stellar audio, we also provide video to our viewers slash listeners. So that's another great thing about the Everything Podcast. We have a loaded agenda today, a lot of really interesting things, and me and Will were just talking about this before we started recording. But there's probably going to be a lot of anger floating around today, and that's something I'm not always. I obviously there have been angry moments on the podcast, but usually, me and Will tend to agree with things. We tend to not have a whole lot to get that angry about. Usually on the Everything podcast, we're covering movies, silly movies, some sports, and there's not anything to get. There's not usually anything to get that angry about, but when the first two topics on your show for an episode of your show are Captain America Brave New World and the new Jurassic World trailer, how do you not get angry? How is there not an angry reaction that comes out of you? You know what I mean? So right off the bat, last night I watched Captain America Brave New World. Will saw it I think the night before, 2 nights before.
Friday night.
Yeah. All right. What a what a bad movie that was, Will. Oh my
Uh,
goodness! Wow, what a horrible movie. And I was a fan of the trailers. You were not. You were way ahead of me on this one. I saw the trailers and I thought, oh, they're going for a Winter Soldier type vibe. I like it. I like the idea behind it. I like where they're going. And they knew what they were doing too. They obviously wanted to make it like the Winter Soldier. But for some reason, it was way worse than everything in the Winter Soldier. The fights, horrible. For the most part, were horrible. The effects, mediocre or bad for a movie. The TV shows having bad effects are one thing, but these movies that are supposed to be what the MCU is, the movies, there's no excuse for these $200 million movies to have bad visual effects. They should probably just give their artists more time and maybe don't reshoot your movie 3 times, which is another issue that is pretty blatant. If you just knew what was, you can tell what was reshot. That was an issue with this. There were a lot of reshoots. They wanted to go back and change things, rewrite the movie, and obviously that's going to end up in a messy product that's not that good. But like I said, it's kind of an angry feeling towards this movie. I also it's not all bad, and I kind of more want to start with the good. And the good was, the characters entertaining to watch. You know what I mean? Harrison Ford's a fantastic actor. Even if he was in the worst movie of all time, I'd still enjoy watching him on screen. He has such strong screen presence, and I was happy to see him in this movie. He was one of the only actors in this movie who I thought was good. Poor Anthony Mackie over there was struggling to get a line of dialogue that sounded normal. The writing in this movie, the script in this movie, was atrocious, but I'm trying to get with the positive. I will say, though, I would have actually liked to see this movie if William Hurt was this General Ross and how different of a type of movie it would be. Because obviously, this them being different people, different actors, is going to make the character feel different. So I would have liked to see how it would have been with William Hurt. Unfortunately, we didn't get that chance. But what else? What else was there? There had to have been more good things. There was a lot of world building, and that's a big thing in the MCU. The MCU is a one big world, right? So they're really able to expand on things from Eternals and the Incredible Hulk, which came out in 2008. Why are we choosing the Captain America 4 to be the Hulk 2? Why is Betty Ross in this movie? Why in the world? Alright, I'm going to get to the bad stuff now, because that was most of the good stuff. One more good thing. The story is actually kind of compelling for like the first quarter of the movie, but then they reveal who the villain is, and all the mystery is gone. And they act like the Red Hulk thing was supposed to be a twist, but more on that after. So the script, I'm getting to the bad things now, obviously. The script, terrible. Visual effects, terrible. Right? My main issue with this movie, the reshoots. And, also, why did they put Red Hulk in the marketing? I know you watched that movie. And where's Red Hulk? Wait, that's the twist? That's the big twist? That's the big reveal? How is that the big reveal? They played it. Am I right, Will? Did they play that as there was this some big reveal?
Yeah, for sure.
So, he's literally on the poster of the movie. You
Yeah.
couldn't, you couldn't avoid the trailers. Even if you avoided the trailers, you would still know what was going on. All you'd have to do is look at the poster and be like, oh, Red Hulk's in this one. And the twist wouldn't work. You'd have to be going in completely blind to not know that this Red Hulk twist is coming. And that's the big finale of this movie. Red Hulk coming in and being Harrison Ford, right? Imagine, I mean, it wouldn't be that much better. Imagine how much, a little bit better it would have been if that was a surprise. We didn't know that was going to happen. But we did, and they acted like that was some big reveal, and I was almost laughing out loud in my theater when I found out that is what they were gearing up to. So then Red Hulk, does his thing for 5 minutes, turns back to Harrison Ford, then the movie ends. Bucky's in there, and it's just a complete mess of a movie. You can feel that it's multiple movies being ripped and put together because of the reshoots. You can see how messy the script is. You can see how rushed the visual effects are because they did all the reshoots. You can see just how poorly made this movie was. And I would compare this, I've heard this comparison thrown out there, a direct-to-DVD sequel. Like a movie that big movie that gets a sequel that just doesn't quite deserve to get a theatrical release. That's what this feel like, and that's bad because this cost almost like $200 million to make, and a Marvel movie shouldn't be bad. They have no excuse for making bad movies. This film premiered with like a 50 on Rotten Tomatoes, and I was trying to enjoy it, and I didn't. It's down to a 49. For me, out of 10, this is gonna get a 4. There's obviously some fun to be had, but that's it. And out of 5, it's gonna get a 2. I only do both scores because I like giving out of 10 scores, and I'm also on Letterboxd, which is out of 5, so I figured I'd give both. But I did a lot of talking there, Will, and I haven't even hit my full anger. I'm saving most of that for Jurassic World. But Will, what were your thoughts on this awful movie? Terrible.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with some thoughts on the movie and then talk about just Marvel as a whole. I did really enjoy the first trailer for Brave New World. Like you were saying, I thought they were setting it up as this very Captain America, the Winter Soldier type movie, and I was really excited about that. But then with the second trailer, I had to lower down my expectations. And then when I was seeing some of the scenes that had been put out before the movie, that's when I started really getting concerned. I was just like, oh boy, this just does not look very good. And when I saw the film, unfortunately, all my worst fears were confirmed. And I think My friend Daniel hit the nail on the head. I want to give him credit for this take and not steal it from him. I think he hit the nail on the head with two things that could have made the movie better. Um, One, the new Falcon. They went for comedic relief with that character, and I just had no time for it. I didn't find him funny. I
Hmm.
didn't find him interesting. I did not care about the new Falcon at all. Every time they went for comedy with that character, it just drove me crazy. And then Captain America is supposed to be this more kind of like gritty war movie type feel, and yet they bring in the Red Hulk at the end. I don't
Hmm.
want a Hulk in a Captain America movie. There's just not time for it. So I thought my friend Daniel hit the nail on the head when he said if they went aside from the comedic relief with the Falcon and didn't have the Red Hulk and just made it like a gritty war movie, it could have been way better. So yeah, I was not. I mean, I don't think it's Quantumania, the Marvels level bad, but I certainly do not think it is a great Marvel movie. I really, really don't, as sad as I am to say that. And in terms of the MCU as a whole, I'm getting concerned. I am pumped for Daredevil Born Again. I think that looks great, but 2022 having three shows, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and She-Hulk, that I really didn't enjoy. 2023 having two movies I thought were terrible, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and the Marvels. What If Season 3, in my opinion, not living up to its predecessors. Um, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I think it's a fun show, but I wouldn't say it's a great show. And
Hmm.
now Captain America Brave New World not being what I hoped it would be, I'm just like, boy, Marvel's running out of time here in terms of, you know, turning around what's been some really poor content recently. So Brave New World is a movie I was not very impressed with. And the MCU as a whole right now, I just look at it and I'm like, boy, I just see a lot of things to be discouraged by.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I think there's gonna be, I think there's gonna be an upside. I think we haven't heard of any reshoots on either Fantastic Four or Thunderbolts, and luckily those movies look really good. And Daredevil obviously looks really good. So I think this could just be a little blip, a little issue, I think. And like you said, it's not the worst Marvel movie ever. And that's, I think, gonna be okay. If this was the only Marvel, if this was last year and this was the only Marvel movie to come out, over. Marvel's done. I mean, what else? I would lose all faith in Marvel. But now that I know we have two movies that are seemingly looking really good and a TV show that looks really good coming up soon, I haven't lost all faith. I lost some faith because I actually thought this movie was gonna be good. Then it wasn't. So I'm still optimistic for the future of the MCU. And one more thing about this movie I want to talk about is an issue I've noticed in a lot of Marvel TV shows, in some Marvel movies. A lot of, I don't know, what's a good example? The Marvels is a really good example. These movies look horrible. Not even in terms of visual effects, which are mediocre. I think the Marvels and this are prime examples of that. They just look like Amazon commercials. They look really bad. I don't know. I actually could point out a few instances where like what is going on here? There's no texture. There's no feel. You know how the Batman will, you know how gritty and dark
Oh
that
yeah,
movie is. You can feel
very
the
yeah.
rain falling on you. You know, the scenery, the cinematography is all very well done. And then you get to this. There's a scene where when we get introduced to Isaiah Bradley, he's in the gym, right? That scene in particular, once this, if you can have the chance to see the movie while I'm talking about this, pay attention to that scene. It genuinely looks like a commercial shoot. And once again, with the budget that Marvel has, why aren't we making the movies look fine? Put a filter, put a black and white filter over. I don't care. I don't care. Just don't make it look like this dry, bland, boring slob that I could film with my iPhone, you know? I could film that myself with my phone. And this movie costs like $200 million to make, and it looks horrible. The visual effects, I don't want to blame that, because I know it's just because they're rushed, because we've seen great visual effects in Marvel when they have the time to deliver great visual effects. So I don't even want to just blame that. I wanted the cinematography's lifeless, bland, and it looks like a commercial. It looks horrible. I recommend you look back at this movie and the Marvels and I don't know some of the other more recent Marvel movies and just look at how lifeless and dead the visuals and the cinematography are. And you could say that's a minor complaint, but it keeps happening and it's these movies are like 2 hours long. I don't ever want I never ever want to sit through a Marvel movie that looks like that again. I was honestly disgusted by how that movie looked. There was green screen issues. How are there green screen issues in a Marvel movie? It looked like my green screen hung up on the wall with me in front of it. That's what it looked like. There was a scene with Captain America talking to the Red Hulk with the worst green screening job I've seen done in the MCU, the worst chroma key job I've ever seen done in the MCU, and probably just in a movie in general. I was disgusted with the way this looked. If you have the resources to make a really good movie, why aren't we using them? Why are we making this unsaturated garbage that looks bad, the script is bad? How are we doing this? You know? I just think and I think they will, like I just said, I think they will do better. But I will never watch a Marvel movie like that again, just because of how disgusting it looked and how bland it was. And the only issue is these Marvel trailers are always so good. You don't know you don't know how bad these things are gonna look, how bad the dialogue's gonna be until you are halfway through the movie and you're like, oh, this isn't gonna get any better. This is just a mess. So that's my final complaint about this movie, and I think it's fair to say that that's a valid complaint, right? Because that's just ridiculous. That shouldn't be happening, and especially with that big of a budget, ridiculous. Speaking of big budget movies that I hate, Jurassic World, what is it? Revival?
Rebirth.
Rebirth. Ugh.
Yeah.
What a stupid movie. So, on the podcast here, big thing we do is we say, that doesn't look good, or that looks good, but I haven't seen it yet, so maybe it will surprise me. Sometimes we get surprised. The Agatha show. I mean, looking back on it, I don't think it's perfect, but I had more fun with it than I thought. And then we get the trailer for this Jurassic World movie. Looks horrible. I say, give it a chance. I haven't seen the trailer. Haven't seen it yet. What are we doing? What was the point of this? So, all right, let me get this straight. After all those years, we come back to the Jurassic universe in 2015 with a Chris Pratt-led movie called Jurassic World. Jurassic World, what an epic name for a rebirth of a franchise. That should have been Jurassic World Rebirth. That's what it should have been. But no, it was Jurassic World, and started off this new trilogy with some really cool concepts. Jurassic World, good movie. Second one, horrible. Third, horrible. Cool concept, horrible movies. But anyway, I have more respect for those movies than this Rebirth movie. So let me get through this. We finished this big trilogy with Jurassic World Dominion, this big Chris Pratt trilogy. with the big epic conclusion. Jeff Goldblum comes back. Everyone comes back. All the originals come back. And then it gets announced like 2 years after that comes out, which is really soon. I didn't think they'd ever make a Jurassic World movie. Or, not ever, but not for a while at least. Oh, they're making a new one. Rebirth. Ooh. That's a cool name. That's a cool concept. Obviously, a little cash grabby because, the Dominion came out 2 years ago, right? A little cash grabby. That was an issue. But I'm like, okay. They're doing something different here. They can't just go back to the movies and do the same thing. They're mixing it up. They're doing something different. It's gonna be a whole new concept, a whole new point of view. No, it's basically the same thing. It's basically the same exact thing with different people. So what was the point of any of this? If we're just gonna go back into this stupid universe with these ridiculous dinosaurs, and it's the same movie for the 7th time. How in the world are there 7 Jurassic World movies? How is that a thing? How is that possible? How are there 7 of these movies? 2 of them. One of them has been good. One of them has been decent. Everything else, horrible. Panned by everyone. No one likes any of the sequels, and now we're back for rebooting the franchise to the kind of reboot of the franchise. This is the 3rd reboot, essentially, and they're not doing anything different. Sure, it's at a different place, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. It's the same thing. It's the same concept. Change up the point of view. Change up the time period. If we're going to reboot it, make it in another universe, or make it in a universe. Now, I'm not saying actually acknowledge that this is a different universe, but make it so that Jurassic Park isn't acknowledged or anything. Don't tie it in. I don't care about anything in this stupid universe. But so they didn't do anything different with the trailer, as far as I know. Nothing. Like I said, the story's different. Blah blah blah. It's the same thing. They're just treading over and over. I don't want to see this movie, and I probably won't see this movie. And if I do, it's for the podcast to hate on it. I don't see any world where this is a good movie, because how could this possibly, if they're just doing the same thing again and again and again and again? I don't want to deal with this. It's a cash grab. It's cheap. It's ridiculous. I don't know why Scarlett Johansson, who's a phenomenal actor, chose to be in this movie. I'm extremely disappointed by this, and even though deep down I knew it's probably not going to be anything, I'm just disgusted to report that this looks like probably one of the worst movies to come out in recent memory, just because of how pointless it is. But Will, I'm sure your thoughts are similar to mine.
Yeah, so like as I had said, like going into this movie, like Jurassic World Dominion, when I watched it for the first time, I was like, this is obviously not a great movie, but it feels like they brought the franchise to a fitting conclusion. It felt like there doesn't need to be anything more after this. So when Jurassic World Rebirth got announced, like you, I was just like, what's the point of this? Like, why does this need to be gotten made? And let me say this. I look at these big franchises from 2 different mindsets. From one mindset, I'm looking at it in terms of, okay, like the dinosaur concept's really interesting. They're bringing in like new characters, like what story building and stuff are they going to do? So from the kind of following the whole arc of the franchise, the dinosaur concept, the characters, like the story building and all that, I'll be interested to see how they do it. But from a quality standpoint, that trailer did not get me going in any way. I'm a huge fan of Scarlett Johansson as an actor. I know she's talked about the original Jurassic Park was the first movie she ever saw in a theater as a kid. So I understand having that, I guess, childhood love for the franchise, wanting this.
Please, if there's a single person in this world that thinks I'm gonna believe that she's doing this movie because she has some childhood nostalgia, That's what a ridiculous angle to go at there. She's doing this for childhood nostalgia. No, I don't think that's true at all, Scarlett Johansson. I think you're doing this because you want to get paid. And I don't blame you. I'm not blaming you. But don't lie in saying this because and say to us that you're trying to do this to fill some childhood void that you want to be part of this franchise. That's ridiculous. Please. All right, carry on, Will.
Uh, yeah, but yeah. So like as I was saying, like I find the dinosaur concept really interesting. So from that standpoint, like from a character standpoint, from a story building standpoint, I will analyze it and I'll be interested in it. But from an actual quality standpoint, there was nothing about that trailer that got me going. As I said, Jurassic World Dominion may not be a great movie, but I walked out of it saying that feels like the conclusion to the franchise. There's nothing more you need to do, and that trailer did nothing to make me change my mind. So I will see this movie. I look forward to talking about it on the podcast. But in terms of me actually thinking it's going to be a good quality film, it's got a lot of work to do to make me think that. A lot of work to do.
Yeah, I'm with you 100. Well, I just I don't think it's gonna be able to prove to me that's a good movie. And yeah, that's just ridiculous that ScarJo wants us to think that she's doing this for some childhood nostalgia reasons. But I want to talk about something I like and something that will make me happy. The Super Bowl. Sure, the game wasn't entertaining, and sure, both of our picks missed. I don't care. Who we wanted to win won, and they won by a lot. I was very happy with the Eagles win, but you know what I was more happy with? The Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl halftime show. And honestly, that was more entertaining than the game. The game wasn't. I mean, I think you can agree it was not an entertaining game to watch. I mean, at least from the second to fourth quarter, because the first, I guess, it was close for a little bit. Um, but that halftime show was amazing. As a Kendrick Lamar fan, and even if I wasn't a Kendrick Lamar fan, I think I would still like it. But I'm sure everyone watching knew I would probably say that. But Will, what were your thoughts on this halftime show and the game, I guess?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the halftime show, Kendrick Lamar, he may not be the style of music that I would listen to every day, but I could still acknowledge that was a really good halftime show. Like watching him perform, I was very clearly like, this guy is a master performer and is just really good at what he does. So he may not be the style of music that I listen to every day, but I have a deep respect for the halftime show that he put on, and I can definitely acknowledge that that was a really great Super Bowl halftime show performance. And in terms of the game, I'm going to start with the positives for the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, minimum AFC Championship game every season of his career. That's incredible. Making it to 5 Super Bowls, winning 3 of them. That's incredible. The Kansas City Chiefs' legacy as a dynasty is put in place. Nothing will change that. That being said, I'm sorry, but the GOAT conversation, I don't want to hear anything about.
Over.
Now, I mean, look, I know the media narrative. If Mahomes comes back and he wins the Super Bowl next season, it's going to come back. But you can't sit there and tell me that Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT, because Tom Brady lost 3 Super Bowls, but he was competitive in every single Super Bowl that he lost. Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs have had 2 Super Bowl losses that weren't just close losses, but they got absolutely demolished. So I think what the Kansas City Chiefs have done is incredible. I think everything they did this season up to the Super Bowl was incredible from an accomplishment standpoint. But these 2 Super Bowl losses that they have had, they look so bad because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Philadelphia Eagles have proven that there is a template in place to not just defeat the Kansas City Chiefs by a small margin, but by a large margin. So we'll see what happens with them going forward. I know I said I'll pick the Kansas City Chiefs until I see a reason to pick against them. I'll give them another chance next season and see what happens with them. But Andy Reid's not getting any younger. Travis Kelce is
Hmm.
not getting any younger. When they lose those two guys, it's going to be a big hit for that organization. Nothing against the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. So look, the Chiefs are incredible. The three Super Bowls, incredible. But these two Super Bowl losses that they've had, to have two losses of that magnitude, that is a bad look.
Yeah, it definitely is. And obviously, I mean, I don't think he should have ever been in the GOAT conversation that early in his career, like I said in the pod. And I think that just, this kind of confirms it. Yeah, obviously, he's one of the best players in that, probably the best player in the NFL right now. He's super talented and will definitely go down in history as one of the better players of all time. But just the GOAT, the whole GOAT conversation, you can't say it, because Tom Brady never lost a game quite like that. You know what I mean? It just didn't happen. So I think that essentially just that closes the door on the whole debate. You can't say anything, and like you said, he's probably gonna make it back next year, and they're gonna say stuff again. But if he gets blown out again, then you can't do anything after that. But if he wins, he'll even go down history as probably a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback of all time, right? Just won't have that goat spot. He can't, and that's okay. I think you don't. I think it's an honor enough to be included in the top 10 of all time, right? So I think Patrick should be completely happy with his spot in the NFL, right? And I
Oh
think
yeah.
all these Patrick Mahomes lovers should also accept that. You know what I mean? But something else I want to talk about before we wrap up this episode is the Grammys that happened recently. My buddy Kendrick Lamar walked away with 5 Grammy Awards for one song, the diss track "Not Like Us." His album that came out in 2024 wasn't even included in the Grammys just because it came out in late 2024. It'll be in the next Grammys. Him and Tyler, the Creator's albums, will both be there then, which will be great to see. So he'll win some more Grammys next year too, just to add up to the catalog of Grammys. The performances were great. The highlight of the show, I thought, was probably Chappell Roan's performance, which
Mm-hmm.
was fantastic. I've been loving her music, and I have loved her music even way before that Grammy performance. She has a lot of great tracks. Red Wine, Supernova, Femininomenon, Hot to Go are all great songs. And obviously Pink Pony Club, which she played at the Grammys, is a great song as well. I thought Doechii, I've loved Doechii for a while. I think she put on a fantastic performance. Denial is a River is such a cool song and a creative song. I'm glad she performed that. And I also liked the song Nosebleeds that she released after the Grammy performance. And I thought it was probably good that this year Taylor Swift didn't win anything, which I liked. I'm a Taylor Swift fan, but she won a lot last year. And this album that she just came out with, this whole Tortured Poets Department thing, it wasn't that good. I don't think, in my opinion, it wasn't that good. It wasn't her best work. Um, and yeah, I did listen to that album when it came out. I stayed up till midnight to listen to it. I'm a Taylor Swift fan. How could I not do that? um, but yeah, overall, a good Grammys show. I was happy with Trevor Noah as the host. I thought The Weeknd and Playboy Cardi's performance was great. What were your thoughts, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it'll be. I mean, going into it, I was like, boy, it'll be hard to beat the Grammys they had last year. I mean, the Luke Combs, Tracy Chapman performance, the Billy Joel performance, the Olivia Rodrigo performance, the Billie Eilish performance. Like, there were so many ones that stuck out to me as great performances from the Grammys in 2024. So I don't think it quite topped that, but I still thought it was a good Grammys. I agree with you about what you were saying about Chappell Roan. If I had to pick a performance of the night, um, I would definitely go with her. Beyonce has been such a prominent feature in the music industry for so long that I was happy to see her finally win Album of the Year because she's been, around and renowned for such a long period of time. And Trevor Noah, I've never been wild about him as a Grammys host. I don't think his comedy's that good. I don't find him that funny, but I loved how they put a spotlight on the Los Angeles community and the small businesses there following the fires. Obviously
Yeah,
neither of us live in LA, but hearing about what was going on down there was really tragic. So the spotlight that they put on that with the Grammys this year, I thought was great. And I look forward to seeing if maybe the Oscars will follow suit next month.
I definitely think they should. I think that would be the appropriate thing to do. But that about wraps up this episode of the Everything Podcast. Will, thanks for joining me, as always. And thank you all so much for watching. And, yeah, we'll see you next time. Hopefully I'm not in this ridiculous setup with this ridiculous chair.